Our planet is our shared home, where we can all celebrate in its beauty, and we can all do more about making our home a better place together at the Earth Day Festival. Join us on April 13th at Balloon Fiesta Park. Family fun activities and energy experts on what you can do to take action now. Get your reserved tickets at earthdayfestivalnm.org. Our power, our planet. It's all at the Earth Day Festival.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Nick, you were front and center, and I still had to hit Krusty the Clown. Well, what a way to start the show. Trying to clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Hey, how's everybody doing out there? Hey. I said hey again. My name is Ryan Tamori, and I'm the terrible host of this show, the Pit Press Live, coming to you live from beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico. Very muy importante show tonight. 8 o'clock. Your new University of New Mexico head men's basketball coach, Eric Olen, I already like him more than Patino because he decided to come on our show. Hey, low blow. Where's the rim shot on here? There we go. All right, I bought this. I better use it. 8:30. Social media mogul from Albuquerque and former UNM football player Bo Hightower. So very, 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 very eventful show today. Happy to do it. Appreciate our sponsors, Capital Ford, Affordable Solar, Tim Baca Jr., Tim Baca Sr. over at Hydro Bar. And don't forget to check out our exclusive content on the Pit Press Plus. You go to our website, sign up, subscribe. There still will be free content on there, but, trying to make a little bit of money doing this. Happy to be on tonight. And I will introduce my panel, or the usual suspects, or the OGs. His ProView producer, Mr. Nick Nunez, Esquire. Nick, how you doing?
Appreciate the intro, Ryan. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. The college basketball season comes to an end last night. Excited to talk about the national championship a little bit, and obviously the opportunity to speak with men's basketball coach Eric Olen, and then another good guest too, Ryan, with Bo Hightower. So excited to be with you guys tonight.
And I go to your father, a Lobo fan since 1970, and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, also with ProView, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Just also wanted to mention, my son's a great producer with ProView. He's also a very fine play-by-play announcer. So, I just did a game at St. Pius this afternoon, so have to give my son some credit there too.
Nick, I'll bite my tongue on softball. That's a joke. Here you go. I never covered it at the Daily Lobos. That and volleyball. So
grows on you.
I'm sure it grows on you.
Yeah.
I mean, ESPN throws softball down. I know volleyball is big now. So ESPN shoves everything down your throat when as it destroys college football landscape. Again, Eric Olen at 8 p.m., 8:30, Bo Hightower. We wanted to recap last night's game and obviously hit on a few things. Tomorrow, there's a media advisory. UNM and New Mexico United are collaborating on something. I don't know what it's on, but I wanted to throw that out there. No, it's not open to the public, even though I think it's in a parking lot. So go figure. Nick, you can call him Coach Olen tonight. This is not written pieces. I see that in the chat. Anyway, all right, yeah. Feel free to join the. It's more informal on the show as it is opposed to writing. There's your journalism 101. I don't know. Yeah, your hot take in there, journalism 101. That didn't make sense. Chris Howell, speaking of basketball, 6'6" guard who played this past season with Eric Olen at UC San Diego after 2 years at St. Mary's under Randy Bennett, committed to the UNM Lobos on Sunday. University of New Mexico men's basketball team. He's following Coach Olen. He started 35 games for the Tritons this year, and as many of you know, they won the Big West and nearly pulled off that miraculous comeback against Michigan in the first round in the Mile High City. Do either of you know anything about him? Nick, I'll start with you.
Yeah, no, a starter for Coach Olen last year on UC San Diego. Top 3 in assists, top 3 in steals for that team. I know those aren't the advanced metrics that a lot of people like. Sometimes you can tell the game on just the basic stats, steals and assists. So a 3-and-D kind of guy, 6'6". I think he averaged 5.6 points per game last year, shot around 33% from 3, over 100 attempts from 3 in 35 games for UCSD last year. So a 3-and-D guy, definitely somebody that you need on your team. Started his college career out at St. Mary's, played 2 years there, and then played the last 2 years for Coach Olen at UCSD. So Lobo fans should be excited about Chris Howell. I think everybody knows he's the younger brother of now UNM men's assistant coach Mikey Howell. So excited to have Chris Howell as a Lobo.
Ed, any thoughts on that?
I think it gives Coach Olen some, and we'll have him on here in a few minutes, some familiarity with a player he's familiar with and is familiar with his system. Defensive stoppers he's one of the better defensive stoppers in the Big West. So I think, again, with Coach Olen, we're going to ask him about the assembling of this roster. He's got Jake Hall and Howell in now. So we'll see how this roster is assembled piece by piece. Some people, and we'll get to it, are a little worried about how come, they only have 2 players or 3 players, everybody left. And I'm sure, Coach Olen will get to it. But I think a player like Chris Howell definitely gives Coach Olen some familiarity with a player he trusts, a player he knows about. And Mikey Howell, the assistant coach, that helps too, him being his brother. So some familiarity with Coach Olen's system.
The key word there, Ed, I think is trust. That's a big thing. I didn't think of that, so appreciate that. Or that inside different kind of take on it. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I know everybody's freaking out about the team. I've gotten quite a few texts. I didn't Patino, like Jeff tweeted it out. Like, didn't Patino put his team together like in August? I don't know what the big deal is. Anyway, Eric is behind the scenes, FYI. Eric's always behind the scenes.
Ryan, I just want to answer that real quick. I think because of the way the season was pretty good, last 2 seasons were pretty good. You got a Mountain West tournament championship and then a regular season championship, 2 NCAA appearances, and really a decent shot to advance to the Sweet 16. So I think people want to see that momentum keep going. And, when they don't know, they don't know. But we got to trust Coach Olen and his staff and getting this roster together. But people are anxious, man. Right now, we said this, strike while the iron's hot, and people are hungry for more low bowl content. So here we are. We're not saying we have the answers as far as what he's doing with the roster, but I'm trusting him and his staff to put together that roster. I'm sure they understand the urgency, but, I'll go back to something John Wooden said, be quick, but don't hurry. So I think Coach Olen, we got to trust him and his staff to put it together and get the players that they need and they want.
I'm going to stick with basketball theme. Appreciate that, Ed. To last night's game, I know we don't really normally talk about national stuff. It's here and there. But Florida rallies last night to defeat Houston 65-63 in the NCAA men's basketball championship game in San Antone, where the fat women are for Charles. Walter Clayton Jr., I don't know. He didn't score a point in the first half. They were down 12 again. Again, I don't know X's and O's, so you can throw all the crap you want at me. I thought the Gators, at the end of January, early February, they might be the best team in the country. I feel like they play like the Warriors, and everybody can come on me at that take. It's fine. They shoot the three, and then the game was what? It was like, both teams were 0 for 12 last night. But Clayton did stop. He probably had the play of the year for the Gators, despite what they did in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. He hit Houston's Emmanuel Sharp in the middle of his motion as he tried to attempt a 3-point or game-winning 3-pointer at that point. I thought it was a fantastic game. I think maybe people overlooked Houston. It was an exciting ending. It might be the most weird ending in all of championship games I've ever seen. But kudos to Florida and what's their coach's name? Golden. Todd Golden. And then he had some little bit of controversy earlier in the year and he was cleared of it. But Nick, I'll start with you. Just your thoughts on last night's Florida-Houston game.
Defensive kind of grinded out game. Both teams shot under 40% from the field and I think under 30% from three. So just kind of an ugly defensive game. Ryan, you made this comment about, Houston kind of is overlooked. You think about what Calvin Sampson said to Tracy Wolfson from CBS Sports after Houston beat Duke in the Final Four. And I think, Houston to me is overlooked sometimes because they're very defensive oriented. They don't have a lot of star players like Cooper Flagg, who, people watch a lot. I mean, they play a real grinded out style of basketball, and that the game was played at their pace last night. I think they forced Florida into 9 turnovers in the first half or early in the game. They completely took Walter Clayton out of the game. But when it came down to late game execution, they just fell apart. I mean, I think they had 3 turnovers in the final minute. Everybody talks about that final play. And I think I've seen some tweets out there like, what was Calvin Sampson drawing up? I mean, there was a lot of action going on in that final offensive set. And I don't want to bore people with basketball details, but I thought there were a lot of screens that were being set. They just didn't execute it very well. Part of it because of how good Florida was playing defensively. So, but entertaining game. I mean, man, if you got, a one possession game in the national championship, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, nobody got destroyed. Ed, before I go to you, Joseph Tugler fouled out there late. But Juwan Roberts is a great forward. Milos Uzan is a great forward. Emmanuel Sharp is a great guard. LJ Cryer is a great guard. Like, they are a good team. And, the said, a lot there, but Kelvin Sampson with his Sasquatch University comment last night, Nick Lorenzen on Mid-Major Madness was all about it. I mean, they had a tough schedule. I'm not shocked. I look back, I'm not shocked they were there. And I really appreciated what they did. They did mess up Florida, and Houston did mess up my two future bets with Auburn and Duke. Last year I had Purdue and UConn, so I won regardless and then hammered UConn. But Ed, wanted your thoughts on the game last night.
I think to my son's point about the shooting, Florida 21 of 53 from the field, 39.6%. 6 of 24 from 3 for 25%. Almost the same thing for Houston, 24 of 69 for 34.8%, and 6 of 25 from 3 for 26 24 for 24%. So they didn't shoot well. Neither team. We said that in the first half. There was a lot of shots, a lot of bricks that were put up. Kind of a game that I thought, and Neff said this, Jacob Neff said it, a pace that favored Houston, that likes ugly, grinded out games like that. And, they had their ball in their hands with the last possession. And I think, my son is right about the actions and the screens, but Florida jumped those screens. I said to my wife, Houston needs to get a shot up with 6 seconds left. If they miss, they can get a rebound or try to foul. They couldn't even get a shot up. And I think that tells you all you need to know about Florida's defense on that last possession. So Clayton Jr. jumps the gap, and they can't even get a shot off. And I don't know that we've seen at any national championship or any game that I've seen, and my son and I cover a lot of high school, and I cover some, D2 college, where a team didn't even get a shot up. So I think that tells you all you need to know about Florida's defense on that last possession. And I think another key possession was 64-63. Richard, the player for Florida, forced a turnover on Houston off of Houston's leg. That was huge. So they made the plays. They out Houston. That's Houston that's normally known for making those defensive plays down the stretch. And I thought that Florida, when they needed to make a play, was the much tougher team. And Clayton Jr., after a slow start, had 11 and Richard had 18 and Condon had 12. But Clayton Jr., once he got to the basket, and Charles Barkley said at half, stopped using the pick and roll. It's not working. And my son mentioned that they brought Clayton off of a double pick. He screened the screener, and then Clayton came off of a double pick and hit that three-pointer. I thought that really got him going. But, again, a one-possession game, and Houston had the chance, and they didn't even get a shot off. And I think that tells you all you need to know about Florida's defense on that last possession. Really key there.
They flipped the switch a lot. When I was in Cleveland, I had the UConn game on. They flipped the switch and rallied. UConn looked like they had them dead to rights. They kind of took care of business with Maryland, if I remember correctly. But obviously Texas Tech, they rallied, and then they had that 11-0 run kind of to start the second half against Auburn. And, Auburn didn't look like themselves. They looked fizzled and phased, and a lot of criticism about Bruce Pearl that he doesn't make halftime adjustments. He's a great motivator. He's got a lot of energy. People love him. I think that was the reason there. The Final Four was phenomenal despite the chalkiness. A lot of people, I'm going to quote the Phil to 68 guys because that was the last thing I saw, that they thought that was the best Final Four, one of the best Final Fours ever. I think you got to go back to 2004. I think it was Oklahoma State and Connecticut and Georgia Tech and Duke. I think Georgia Tech beat Oklahoma State and UConn beat Duke. And those were some, if you go back and look at those rosters, very, very loaded. Few other things I wanted to get to before Coach Eric Olen. Per Sean Ryder of the Albuquerque Journal, moving on to football, and I don't use these enough. And Eric was nice enough to make them. Yeah, little bit longer than I thought. But anyway, per shot writer of the Albuquerque Journal, former Rio Rancho quarterback and now UNM redshirt senior quarterback, or former, is no longer with UNM. He confirmed with the Journal on Tuesday. I saw Sean's tweet. I didn't hear about that. Of course, everybody made the joke that he was the Tom Brady of UNM football back in the COVID year when he won 2 games at Sam Boyd Stadium, against Fresno and Wyoming in the start of the Danny Gonzalez era. I don't know if you guys have any thought of that. I mean, he's a local kid. It's kind of a bummer. Nick, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Oh, that is a bummer. I do remember those 2 games that you're referring to. I think it was back in 2020. And I still remember his celebration, and I can't do this at the camera, otherwise I'll get fined by the NBA. But you remember the guns up celebration that he had. I thought that was kind of like an iconic moment for him. So local kid, and it's a bummer to hear that news.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Now I'm going to put your dad on the spot. Somebody, I don't know, you guys cover local high school sports, Ed. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, that is a bummer because, I don't think that was expected. So, not good news, and kind of, I did remember what my son mentioned, so I didn't expect that. So, yeah, that is a bummer.
The UNM spring football game will be next Friday night at 6:30, kids clinic. And again, all those practices are open since we're talking about football. I forgot the dates and times. By the way, the Lobos ruled Texas Tech today at 8 innings, 15-5 at Santa Ana Star Field. So kudos to them. We don't talk much baseball in here. I need to do that. I know this isn't the best show, but I just want to find these times because it'll make me happy. The remaining football practices are Thursday, 8:40 a.m. to 10:30, and then Saturday, 10:30 to 12:20. Next Tuesday, don't forget to do your taxes, 8:40 a.m. to 10:30. Same on Thursday, the 17th, and then ESPN. Go Lobos. No, way to butcher that. ESPN. I mean, Go Lobos has Friday, April 17th. It's Friday, April 18th. FYI, which is next Friday. That is the spring football game. Kids Clinic is before that. I'm going to hit on this story, and I'm going to start here and I know Nick and I think a lot of people, especially with the rumors floating around, per the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Ed Graney, UNLV defensive coordinator and linebackers coach Zack Arnett has resigned, and it was for personal reasons, Dan Mullen said yesterday. Associate coach Paul Gunther, the Raiders former defensive coordinator. He is the interim defensive coordinator for UNLV. The school did not provide additional details on the reasons behind Arnett's decision. Now, what I've heard and a lot of rumors floating around online, and this is a big fat allegedly, and I'm not here to start rumors, is that he drove through a Wendy's naked in Las Vegas. And I didn't believe it when I first heard it, and then a lot of parody accounts started up online. But that's the official report from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, not alleging the Wendy's incident. I mean, Zack Arnett is kind of cherished here. He's had an insane coaching career with Mike Leach. He took over for Mike Leach at Mississippi State when Leach, unexpectedly had that heart issue and passed. Rest his soul. Colby Dant that comes on the show. They were good friends with him, but I don't know. Again, big fat allegedly. Nick, when I told you earlier, kind of laughed. I feel kind of bad for Zach here because I think he's a hell of a defensive coordinator and he's a Rocky Long disciple. I don't know what you make of his resignation there, and you don't have to piggyback off the allegedness of that story.
Yeah, obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire. You don't resign for personal reasons and not explain it unless there's something that you don't want people to know. So don't know about the Wendy's story, Ryan. Either way, an Albuquerque native and someone who's made a lot of headlines in college football from the state of New Mexico is out of a job, and it's a bummer. So wish him well. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah, I do hope everything is okay. Again, I read the report from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and then what you heard, that was alleged. That is not fact, but I think that's insane. Ed, I don't know if you had the privilege of covering Zach, but he's a heck of a football player. I hope everything's okay. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
I do. Well, allegedly, supposedly is what Jim Rome always says, and I hope that's not true. I really don't. But you have to wonder because it's out of the blue. It comes out. I don't think they expected that. I read that, and I read that on my radio report this morning. So I hope everything's okay. But I think I want to just say sometimes people have mental health issues, and hopefully he's okay there because it's allegedly, it's supposedly, we don't know. I just hope he's okay. He had been mentioned as a possible candidate here when Danny left, and so that they might hire him, or even as a defensive coordinator. His name had been mentioned, and I was kind of hoping he'd come back on the staff as something. He's a Lobo, he's a local guy, and so I just hope he's okay. But that's my answer to that. Again, I'm sad that he's not going to be at UNLV, but more importantly, I hope he's okay as a person. That matters more than any football job. So I hope he's okay.
That's kind of how I feel on it. I mean, pretty famous Lobo football player. Hey, my arch nemesis is watching. Gee, Wade, how you doing? Anyway, yeah, and then the same thing, Ed, I just wanted your quick thoughts on this. Was it Mike Malone today getting fired from the Nuggets? I know we normally don't talk NBA, but I just thought that was bizarro.
You know what? I was stunned. My son sent it to me, and you know what? He just won a championship. What, a year ago, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? They've had some injuries. Their roster is not the same. They lost Contavious Caldwell-Pope. They've lost some pieces there. But that guy, to me, I thought was a very good coach. And they said that I guess they weren't happy with the way the team. And then again, here's another thing. And to this, you signed Russell Westbrook, who is great and horrible and great, and so sometimes he makes decisions at the end of games that cost you games. And right now they need him in the lineup. Jokic had 61 points last Friday, 10 rebounds and 10 assists, and they lost to Minnesota. I don't think that's his fault. I don't know who are you going to bring in. Now the Phoenix Suns got rid of Monty Williams. They got rid of Frank Vogel. Mike Budenholzer's not fared any better there. So watch the Phoenix Suns possibly pick up Malone in the offseason. He's a great coach. Someone's going to get him. I guarantee that. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, no, we normally don't touch on NBA, but that was kind of big news today. All right, I got to go to my main road dog.
The Miguel Sanchez.
Lionel Hutz, I hope you're doing well. Okay, quick commercial break. This reminds me of the time I hosted the Saturday morning show, and I went from John Traub, Peter Trevisani, and we were trying to get Snake on, so I felt bad about the story. We will return. My name is Ryan Samori. This is the Pit Press Live. We will return with new UNM head men's basketball coach, Eric Olen. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We will be right back.
The Mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Our planet is our shared home, where we can all celebrate in its beauty, and we can all do more about making our home a better place together at the Earth Day Festival. Join us on April 13th at Balloon Fiesta Park. Family fun activities and energy experts on what you can do to take action now. Get your reserved tickets at earthdayfestivalnm.org. Our power, our planet. It's all at the Earth Day Festival.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. I'm joined by Nick Nunez and Ed Nunez, and we will now bring on our special guest tonight. We are very happy to have him on. If you are and Jacob Neff's not on tonight, if you are a mid-major basketball nerd like I am, and my Thursday nights are now, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll watch baseball, even though I'm a baseball fan. He led the University of California, San Diego Tritons to their first ever bid in the Division I men's basketball tournament, winning the Big West regular season outright, the Big West tournament, and he hails from La Jolla by the Sea. My dad used to go to Scripps Clinic to see a specialist there. So La Jolla at Albuquerque, I'll have a bone to pick with you later. He is your new UNM men's head basketball coach, Mr. Eric Olen. Eric, how are you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
And I want to throw it to my other couple hosts here, the son and father tandem of Nick and Ed Nunez. That way I don't forget about them. And I will start with the first question, and it's going to be a softball. What are your thoughts on the game last night?
Yeah, that's funny. I actually didn't get a chance to watch the game, so I saw the result. But it's been busy here, and we're focused on this program at the moment. So I didn't get a chance to watch it. But familiar with a couple of guys, know a couple of guys on that Florida staff that has spent some time on the West Coast. So happy for those guys. That's a terrific performance. But I know it's supposed to be a softball, but you stumped me because I didn't get to see it.
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. I look like an idiot because I did want your thoughts on the game last night, but that will make Lobo fan happy that you're working. I'm going to throw it over to Ed with the next question. Or excuse me, Nick. Nick, my bad.
Coach, good evening. Nice to see you. Coach, how's it going? You've been here for a little over a week. You're getting settled in. I mean, how are you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well. We're staying busy. There's lots going on. There's lots to do. But yeah, it's been a good process. We got out here for a few days last week with the press conference and, meeting lots of people and trying to get settled. Got my family back home. I was supposed to go to Final Four, but just the schedule was crazy. So I kind of just worked from home and was able to spend a couple days with the family so that, I could be out here as much as possible going forward. And so got back late, had a little flight delay, got in super late on Sunday night. And been in the facility the last couple of days, and some of the staff has come out with me now, and so we're all here working. And there's still some staff positions to fill, lots of recruiting with the roster, and so yeah, we're getting to work, and we're excited to be here and excited to build a great team.
Coach, wanted to ask you a question about the roster. It's been on a lot of minds of Lobo fans, just with the transfer portal closing or opening and then closing April 22nd, and you just getting here. A lot of Lobo fans are anxious. I think people, and Jeff Grammer was one of the first ones to report this, but April 22nd is just the date that the portal closes. That's not the date that you can finalize your roster. So, Coach, if you could just kind of explain what your timeline is and kind of where your coaching staff's mind is right now with filling the roster.
Yeah, so right now we're just kind of working through the process, which involves talking to a lot of different guys. I mean, there's a huge number of players in there. There's a lot of good players, so we're trying to do our due diligence and be really intentional and thoughtful with the guys that we're going to add to the program. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And, when you're building a roster, it's really, we're not taking this shotgun approach where we're just kind of, here's this group of talented guys and we'll take any and all of them. It's much more specific than that in terms of specific roles. We're trying to start with the higher usage players or the ones that we project into higher usage roles and then build out complementary pieces around them. So it does take some time. You have to work through it. The portal's, like you said, the portal's open. So there's still at least 2 more weeks where guys can still enter the portal. I think that some guys are taking a measured approach to it, kind of gauging the landscape and timing when they're going to go in. And then, we got to make sure we get the right people, the right fit, with the right mindset. So, I would love to get it done yesterday and have all the pieces in place. And I know Lobo Nation is excited to see what we're going to build. And I certainly understand and appreciate that. But we're not going to overreact to not having the pieces in place. We're going to take a measured approach, and we're just going to kind of work through our process, and we're confident that we're going to get the right people. We'd like to do it as soon as possible, but right now it's a dead period. No one can visit. We're having a bunch of Zooms. I was on at least three Zooms today. We have several tomorrow. So we're having those kind of virtual visits and kind of gauging interest and talking through roles and explaining to different guys like how they would fit and how we'll use them. And then the follow up from those conversations is, making sure the NIL makes sense for everybody on both sides. And if we get to all those points, then we'll bring them to campus and kind of have the visit and be in a place from there. So there's a few steps that we have to go through with each person. And we're working through those now. And I think we'll start to have visits starting potentially as early as this weekend and certainly some next week. And, Easter being on the following weekend is, part of the factors of people's schedules. And there's just a lot of variables for each person. And so, there's a lot that goes into the recruiting process.
Ed, I'll throw it over to you.
Coach Ed Nunez, welcome to Albuquerque. Congratulations. Glad to have you here. You mentioned roster assembly, assembling a roster, but John Wooden said it, be quick, but don't hurry, and there's people that are anxious here. After 2 winning seasons, people are going to want to know, and they want to know yesterday, but I think your explanation makes a lot of sense. Not going to just get anybody, going to get guys that are comfortable with your system and comfortable with you. The UNM has seen several changes since December. Fernando Lobo was hired as the athletic director, and essentially his first week on the job, he had to hire a new football coach in Jason Eck. Now he's brought you in. How does it feel to be part of a new regime here? And you got Amy Bagan and Ryan Berryman. They came back. It's a whole new regime. How does it feel to be a part of that?
Oh, I'm fired up to be here. I very much believe in you win with people, and all the people that I've met and have been dealing with here have been just there's a reason there's success here, and there's a reason that success is going to continue. And so it's been a great process. I think everyone's been terrific in trying to help us hit the ground running and give us the support that we need. So I've really enjoyed meeting everyone that I've got a chance to meet. There's lots more people to do that with and continue to build some relationships. But I mean, so far so good. Everything's exceeding my expectations, and just really excited to be here and be part of it.
21 years at UCSD. Then my wife and I were just in San Diego in October. And what a beautiful place. 72 degrees, the harbor. It was hard to leave. So I know
Ed, don't talk about it.
It's
not Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah. Were you guys outside today? It was so nice today.
Yes, it was. And I'm just saying, San Diego is very, very, very aesthetically pleasing. But you mentioned being mentored by Bill Carr when he was the head coach at UCSD. Can you elaborate on that a little bit about how he mentored you and when you were there as an assistant?
Yeah, for sure. I played for Bill in college, so that he's certainly part of my basketball foundation. So played for him for a few years in college, and then came out to San Diego to work for him. I was an assistant under him for 3 years, and that was that was a seamless transition for me, having played in the system, kind of knew it inside and out. Felt like I could, as a young coach who, I don't know that I knew a lot about coaching, but I felt like I could communicate what he wanted because I'd done it. I'd been in his shoes. So felt like I could add value there as a former player with a really good understanding of what he was trying to do. And so sort of figured out what that meant to be an assistant coach and how to help guys and that kind of thing. And I think I was fortunate to be in a system that I had played in. So it gave me a level of competence, I would say, to really help other guys. So I thought that was a really nice transition for me into coaching. And then when he left UC San Diego, the next head coach's name was Chris Carlson, who had been who'd worked for Ben Howland for a very long time at Northern Arizona, at Pittsburgh, and then at UCLA before he came to UC San Diego. So when Carr left and Chris Carlson took over, he gave me an opportunity to stay at UC San Diego, and I learned a ton from him. Having a whole different system and philosophy. A lot of the Ben Howland principles, Jamie Dixon, those kind of guys are in that same coaching tree. And so some different things there that I was able to learn and develop as a coach, and I felt like really helped me progress in the business. So he would be the other person that I think really had a big impact on me and just working for them. I think we're all kind of shaped by our experiences. So yeah, those are two guys that I think I learned a ton from, and I still carry a bunch of things forward from those experiences. And then I think, like, my early years as a head coach, I was able to really kind of learn a lot about myself and kind of figure things out and create my own sort of identity, and so yeah, it's been a great journey. Those are guys that really impacted me and that I learned a lot from and have shaped sort of who I've become as a coach. So really grateful for those experiences with those guys and learned a ton from them. And I think every time we're in a different environment, we can learn and grow a lot, and I'm excited about this next chapter.
Nick, I'll throw it over to you.
Coach, I know you've been here a week and you're busy. You got a lot going on, and the days probably fly by. But any local restaurants you had the opportunity to try, and are you looking for suggestions, Coach?
So, yeah, always looking for suggestions. Please shoot those my way. I can't wait to try some more places. Let's see. So when we were here last week, we stayed at Hotel Chaco, which was right across the street from Sawmill Market. So we went over there a couple times, and a lot of options in there. And then now the staff and I are staying at Hotel Andaluz, I believe, which so we ate at Char last night. So those are my two restaurants. Outside of just, like, I was up at Dutch Brothers grabbing a coffee earlier. So like, those are the two that I've been to, but I've heard a lot of great things. I know my wife has a list. She's coming out tomorrow. We're going to look at some houses and those kind of things. And then her birthday is on Thursday. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a dinner reservation on Thursday. So yeah, any recommendations are welcome. We're excited to try lots of places. And, that's something we really enjoy, and we're looking forward to getting out and trying everything.
And then, Coach, another basketball question for you as far as kind of your process to recruiting. Just curious kind of how the work is being divvied up, Coach. There's a lot going on. Do you have it kind of divvied up to where one coach is looking for a certain position group and then you guys brainstorm, or kind of how does the process work?
Yeah, it's, everybody's kind of got their sort of specific areas. They're a little more focused. Tank does a little bit more of the international stuff, so he's kind of on a different time zone with some of his Zooms and calls. And Sam's doing a lot in the West Coast. I mean, the portal is not super regional, so we're all just sort of working through that. You hear from lots of other coaches and different people, agents, about players, and we just try to follow up on the leads and do our homework. Mikey Howell's like, I mean, that guy's watching film nonstop on different guys and trying to evaluate, how people will fit, right? So we kind of look at like where their production comes from, how are they being successful, and then we try to, dive into the film and see, okay, which parts of that translate, right? They're in a different scheme, they're in a different system, so maybe some things are going to come with them into our system more or less than what they're currently doing. So we're trying to evaluate all of those things. Where are they efficient? Where are they inefficient? If they're inefficient in an area, is it something that is just a skill development issue? Is it a decision-making issue? Is it a byproduct of their circumstance? Is it something we can improve? Is it not controllable? Like, we're evaluating all of those things for everyone that we're considering and trying to project them into what we're doing, right? And so that process does take a little bit of time, and so it's we're pretty comprehensive in our evaluations, or we try to be at least, and make sure that we're adding pieces that make sense. I believe in complementary rosters, and so versatile guys are a little easier to move forward with earlier in the process, because you feel like you can then add multiple different types of pieces around them. So if we can add versatility early, it keeps us from, we don't want to be in a situation where we're looking for one specific thing and the pool is small and the market is expensive, so like there's all of those things are, our needs, the market, the players, the fit into the schemes and systems are all things that we're factoring in as we build the roster.
Last question from me, Coach. What is the biggest sales pitch that you have to guys that you're recruiting, looking at in the transfer portal, and also high school recruits starting off fresh, kind of with a brand new roster? What's the biggest sales pitch?
Well, I mean, I think you start with one of the great home environments in all of college basketball. I mean, everybody wants to be in the kind of environment that we have every night here. So like that's the part that's an easy sell. And I think everybody wants to be in that environment. Everybody's looking for that environment, and you can't find it everywhere. Everybody thinks about level and all those things, but I don't care. The majority of Power 5 schools don't have anything like this from an environment standpoint, so I think everybody's fired up about that part. And then, we're targeting guys that we think fit our style, so when we get that part right, when we have alignment with the player and the family and the agent, and everybody can kind of see that, okay, these skill sets translate in this way, and this is how we're going to use them. I think when you're able to kind of articulate that and show it to them, we watch a lot of film. Like when we do these Zooms, we're showing them film of how we play. We try to intersperse that film with their clips, so that they can see hey, here's a thing that you're doing at a high level, right? Here's us doing that same thing. That means it's going to translate. Now we know you're going to be successful in this area because we already see you doing that, and this is how we would use you. Now there's other things that we want to get to. We'll talk about their development. We'll show them the things that they're not doing well that we would maybe want to adjust or help them improve on, right? So we want people to really understand what we're looking for from them, what kind of role it would be, and we try to provide a lot of transparency to everybody up front, because I think if you can do that, then once they get here, it's a smoother transition, and you can really get them playing better basketball much sooner.
Ed, I'll throw it over to you for one final question.
Coach, you said you're a believer in your system that players win games, and you're not the kind of coach who will be calling a lot of plays from the sideline. My son played for a coach in high school, called a lot of plays. You have 1,000,001 sets, one coach said. Can you elaborate on that statement that you made?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of great coaches who call plays. It's not any one specific way to do this. There's lots of ways, and I think that's what makes basketball fun and enjoyable to watch, is kind of the diversity in style and those things. I just feel like to play your best basketball as a player, I think you need to be empowered, you need to be confident, and you need some degree of freedom. If you're always concerned about me giving you every detail of where to go and what to do, then you're thinking too much, and you're not going to play, in my opinion, to your capabilities. So I try not to have guys overthinking. We spend a lot of time on the concepts that we believe in offensively, to where we want to get it to where it's second nature, to them, and they can kind of do it in their sleep, and they're able to just play the game and then all read and react to what's happening on the floor. So we give our players a ton of decision-making and a lot of freedom. I mean, there is a structure to what we're doing, and we expect them to understand and execute that structure at a sort of baseline level before we kind of allow all that freedom, but I think if you're looking over to see what to do all the time or asking what to do, then you're not playing fast, you're not playing free, and so we really want to try to create that type of freedom and empowerment for our players, and then really trust them to make the plays. They're the ones on the court, right? I'm not making any shots, I'm not getting any stops. I'm just sort of there to help them and try to direct them into good positions for themselves and their teammates. So I try really hard not to overcoach it. I'm not perfect in that, and I certainly get in the way sometimes and make my share of mistakes. And it doesn't mean we don't call any plays. If we're coming out of a timeout, we might try to draw something up to get an easy basket. We're going to run plays on a baseline out of bounds. a guy really gets going, we're going to try to really make sure we can get him the basketball. So it's not open gym or anything, but we certainly try to provide, freedom within the structure and the concepts that we play in, because I think that's where their guys can really play with the most confidence and hopefully reach their best basketball.
You had mentioned you walked in the pit and you got chills, and it's not a knock on you. I think there was a lot going on at that press conference. Maybe nerves played a role. But when you walked in, I'm just making an assumption like an idiot. But anyway, when you walked into the pit for the first time, I know you said you had chills, but when you walked in and embraced that arena and it was empty, and it's basically, it's your kind of arena. I know it's Lobo fans, and you made that comment. But what was it like? I know you said chills, but did you have any other feelings when you first stepped foot into the pit?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a whirlwind. It's a little surreal, like just a week ago, I was, coaching a different program, but just the history there, and just thinking about playing a game in there, thinking about having that full and loud, and like it's really exciting for me. But I also I don't know what it is like. You know what I mean? So that part's really energizing and kind of thrilling to think about, right? So yeah, like when you walk in and it's empty, you can kind of feel the history, and it's a special place. But I'm also really fired up for November to really get a feel for it in person.
I know a lot of Lobo fans are. We here, Ed and Nick. I know Ed is. I think Ed is. He couldn't join us tonight. My friend, basketball mid-major junkie Jacob Neff, when he heard the news, he was like, I don't know, he was ecstatic. Nobody knows more than him. My last question, and last one about San Diego. What did you shoot at Torrey Pines?
I put some big numbers up at Torrey Pines, but I think before my daughters were born and I was able to play a little bit of golf, I was a borderline bogey golfer, not necessarily at Torrey, and certainly not if we're going to play from the tips or anything. But no, that's a pretty special venue, and being able to get over there every once in a while was a pretty cool experience.
You won't be known as UNM head basketball coach to me anymore. It'll be borderline bogey Eric Olen.
That's a compliment. That's a big time nickname. I'll take that one.
Sure. Perfect. Well, people ask me what my handicap is, and I'm like, it's the golf course. That's how bad I am. He is the new UNM men's basketball coach at the University of New Mexico. His name is Eric Olen. I tried to keep it a little quicker there, but we can't thank you enough for joining us here on the Pit Press tonight. And good luck on the endeavors of the off season. Maybe we'll bug you down the stretch.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Look forward to doing this again sometime.
Awesome. Have a great night, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Coach.
I thought that was a fantastic interview with Eric Olen, and he put up with my comedy hour. Ed, I'll start with you, and no disrespect to Nick, just because I respect your dad's love and the history of the UNM men's basketball team. Your thoughts there?
Unassuming, egoless. I love his. They said that about him. You can tell that he's when you asked him about the pit. He, walking down the ramp and not seeing the fans, he'll get his fill in November. I'm excited for him about that. But I think a lot of fans have been saying, "What about the roster? What are we doing?" He just laid it out for you there. He's not worried about it. He's assembling his roster as we speak. So I think that's important too, because there's a lot of Lobo fans that we only have 2 players. We don't have any players. He'll figure it out. That's why they hired him here. So I'm glad he addressed that. You know what? He's, like I said, I don't see any ego at all. And every coach has somewhat of an ego, I believe, because you're the one that's it's the driver. You're the one that people look to. But I really enjoyed that. I really did. I think we got to look into his personality. I'm looking forward to seeing the team that eventually comes together here. And you mentioned that Pitino didn't get his roster until August. They've got plenty of time to do that. So a great visit. You mentioned Coach Carr at UCSD, how he was his mentor and what he learned from him. Again, a very humble humility. That's what I looked at from him. So I'm looking forward to it, and I thought it was a great conversation. I really did.
Nick, your thoughts?
The work ethic. I mean, look, man, it's 8:30 p.m. at night, and he's out there working right now. He talked about, we were very kind of careful in what we did ask Coach Olen, but we wanted to know what his approach was to recruiting in the transfer portal, and I think he gave Lobo fans some really good insight about him and how him and his coaching staff is approaching the process. He's divvied up work. He talked about we're looking for guys that can fit with what we want to do. We're not going to just go out there and pick everybody or anybody. So I understand what Lobo fans have been saying. They look at other teams in our conference, that are being a little bit more aggressive in the portal, or at least are signing players right now. And Coach Olen and his coaching staff are just on a different timeline. And I think, I'm certainly reassured after hearing what he had to say and how he's approaching it. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what he's about to build.
Yeah, he's definitely. I don't want to repeat myself. He is definitely the opposite of Richard Pitino. Richard Pitino was definitely an East Coast guy, and as I've always described Richard Pitino, he was Bill Murray as Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters, the original, where it's very dry, maybe not as creepy, but as the dry sense of humor, He kind of shot you straight. I feel like we're getting that from Eric Olen, just in a different tone or mindset. I don't know. I'm piggybacking off. I didn't even finish my thought there, but I'm piggybacking off of Jacob Neff, and I know he's not here, and I wish he was on, because the dude knows there's a reason I asked him to be on the show. And when he saw the two finalists as Andy Kennedy and Eric Olen, he liked Andy Kennedy at UAB. But I think Eric Olen was, no pun intended, the slam dunk, grand slam, touchdown hire. I think it's going to be fantastic for the University of New Mexico. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. And this is 50% of my company. I predominantly host the show. Eric's probably the bigger brains behind this than I. It's just the journalism background that helps me sell in my day job. But I tell this to many people. I was there for the Krebs years, and I thought Mike Loxley, it just turned his ass for it. And if you recognize the name, it's not like I walk around and say that all the time. 15 years later, I don't know if I've let it go or I haven't. I was embarrassed by it, even though it really wasn't my fault. And yeah, I had some animosity towards the University of New Mexico athletic department. But I think with people like Ryan Berryman, I know Nate Strong, I covered Amy Bagan when she played for Don Flanagan. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Jalen Dominguez. I know Eric has. I've heard good things. My perception's changed. I'm still going to be objective when I'm talking about the teams. That's just who I am. But Ed, I'm repeating myself. I'm incredibly enthusiastic by what Fernando Lovo has done and these two hires, because I know Olen has just gotten here, but wow. I'm going to have to ask that question. I remind you of Newman, or his character in Space Jam, or do I get eaten by the Dilophosaurus? Now I lost my train of thought. I'm just very enthusiastic by what Fernando Lovo has done with these two hires. So I'm super excited. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Ed or Nick, do you have anything final to say? And then Nick or Ed, I don't know if you're sticking on with Bo Hightower.
No, I think you said it all, but I got to say this, that Jason Eck, Lobo up. Every time I think of Coach Eck, I'm already thinking Lobo up. I love that. I love his enthusiasm. Been reading Sean Ryder's description of spring program. Haven't been able to get out there to a practice yet. They're all open, so we'll see. I think as far as the football program goes, they had one of the best quarterbacks behind center last year, 5-7. Their defense wasn't as good. So I'm anxious to see. Jack Lane is still hurt. He didn't play in the spring because he's hurt. So I'm kind of anxious to see. The running back room is strong. We'll have to see. Coach X said the defensive line is a little bit short. They need probably some more players there. But I think just going back to what you said about Fernando Lovo, I think, you mentioned Ryan Berryman, Jalen Dominguez, Amy Began. This is a new regime, man. So anybody that wanted Coach Alford, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think Fernando Lobo wanted his guy, and he got him. He got Coach Eck, and he got Coach Olen. That's what he wanted. So hey, man, I'm all with it. I'm all behind it.
And Nick, I'll go to you, but tell me something I don't know. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, a couple things. Lobo baseball got a win today. They defeated Texas Tech 15-5. Folks, get out there. I think the Lobo softball team won this weekend, so just get out and support some baseball and some softball. The weather's getting better. And then, Ryan, just wanted to plug our Pit Press Plus content, also the content on our website. We're all trying to write more. We've got some ideas in the folds. Obviously, the House settlement that could affect the NCAA and Division I athletics and the transfer portal and NIL even more than it already is now. We're looking into that. So, just wanted to plug our content and tell people to subscribe.
No, Nick, thank you for doing that. Appreciate that. I am not bro rambling. I'm a pro rambler. How's that? Ed, Nick, thank you very much. I don't want to make our next guest waiting. I am going to take a quick commercial break. Ed and Nick Nunez, thank you guys for joining me. I figured you would have both loved talking to Coach Olen, so thank you for joining.
You bet. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care, man.
Yep. Let me give a big fat there. Ryan Tamori, Pit Press Live will be right back after this quick commercial break.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Appreciate Coach Eric Olen throwing a shout out to Steve Kirkland, UNM men's basketball SID, for hooking us up with him. And then Ed and Nick. I don't want to make our next guest wait any longer. I think I delayed him already 5 minutes, so my bad. I don't know. I don't even know how to introduce him as a connoisseur of the social media webs. He's a former UNM football player. He's a chiropractor. Incredibly intelligent. Bo Hightower. Bo, I don't even know how to introduce you because you introduce yourself. You don't need an introduction. How are you doing tonight?
And I'm just a Lobo fan, buddy. I'm good.
I want to thank you for joining us again. I know I bugged you on my podcast that I had like 2 or 3 years ago, and now we have this, and we've blown it up even further. So
Congrats.
I appreciate it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So here we are. You're the master of it. But anyway, I'm going to start here because I talked to one Ben Weissong tonight, and he wanted me to bring up this picture and then this picture. And I believe that's you right there, correct?
Yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Cole McCamey, Ben Weissong, and one Robert Turner. And I was told to ask you, you need to tell the story of the time you jumped on Robert Turner's back in practice on scout team. Perfect. I'm glad we started off this way. Ben's a good friend and he's a friend of the show. But if you could tell that story to myself and the viewers. I'm sure Ben would appreciate it.
Well, it sounds like you already heard this story.
I know I haven't. I have no idea.
I don't know. We used to scrap a lot of practice. Sometimes things get a little hectic, a little crazy, and back in the old days, people used to just fight, and so we fought.
That's quick and to the point. I appreciate it. But I mean, he played in the NFL. Can you elaborate on like what kind of offensive lineman he was? Because he was.
He was a stud. He was an absolute stud. He was a leader for the team for sure. A no nonsense guy, somebody that led by example in the weight room. And he's a guy that defended his guys, his running backs, his quarterbacks. So if you get a little extra hand on one of the quarterbacks, you might have a fist fight on your hand, and that happened a few times.
I love it. I love it. You are very, I do appreciate your social media. I've kind of chimed in and make some quirks, but I do appreciate you. And we're Albuquerque guys and UNM alum.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, being that you're UNM football alum and you're a much smarter guy than I, but I think I don't know. This is like a loaded question. Let me start with Jason Eck. There seems to be just a more open approach to this football coaching staff and coach and trying to get people in the seats. I just wanted your thoughts on that, being Lobo football alumni.
Yeah, we were on the alumni call with him the other night. Ben was on there too, so we got a chance to talk to him. He actually had a conference just for old alumni to kind of chime in and give our perspective and, see if there's anything that we could do for the program or vice versa, or ideas for getting fans in the stands. So he's been a lot more open and kind of reaching out to the alumni than any of the other coaches that I've seen so far. Seems like a real blue collar guy, somebody that's a hard worker. It seems pretty, like, as you were saying, all coaches have egos, but pretty down to earth, all things considered, for a guy making, big money here. Just like the previous guest on, I think Lobo's finding guys that fit his mold. I think Patino was as you said, East Coast guy, very charismatic, snarky, somebody who could sell things, right? He could get recruits. So it'll be interesting to see, now that these guys have elevated to a bigger program besides Idaho and UCSD, obviously they can coach. There's no question about that. Are they going to have the chops out on the recruiting trail to get the big names, the guys in here? In a way that some of these other guys previously have been able to, the Bronco was, or the Patino was, just from having been on the big time circuit in the Power 5 conferences. And in Richard's case, having his dad give him some help, whether it be, introducing Mashburn's family, back in the day, or whether it be, Nelly Joseph Jr. coming over from Iona. Coach Patino is really good, obviously, at getting personnel. And I'm interested to see how we're going to be doing that going forward.
You kind of touched on Lovo, and I hope I'm not trying to throw a curveball on you. Kind of a youthful approach. Probably around our age. I'm just curious your thought, because I don't think, and back to your playing days, and we were kind of in college at the same time, and my days as a reporter, I don't think I've ever seen, and I'm going to use the word open again, and I don't like that, but like an enthusiasm and not cliche, but like a rallying behind the community. Can you comment on that, and maybe do you appreciate it?
Yeah, I think so. And again, tip of the hat to Coach Patino for kind of leaving the program so much in a better place than it was. Just having the blood of the community going in basketball again. It takes some time for that to happen. Time moves quick. These high schoolers, if 4 or 5 years go by and the pit hasn't been full, we haven't been to the NCAA tournament, they don't remember those days. So we do, but the youth doesn't. And I think that the basketball program is in a really good spot right now. The football program had a little momentum. We'll see what they're able to do this year, but I think he's got young coaches coming in. He's got guys that can obviously coach. And I think both of those guys were the essential fan favorites. If you looked across X or, the other places, those both were the hires that I think the fans wanted. Not only because they could bring personnel from a good team over right away, which we've seen with both of them already doing, but they won, and they won for a long time in both of their cases. And, they've shown the ability to build a program, and I think that's what we're looking for. Some of these other guys, again, no knock on Richard, but he wasn't exactly coming from a winning place. Obviously, he has the bloodline, and same thing with Bronco. He'd been out of the game for a very long time, and big name, been at BYU, been at Virginia. But these are young guys that have been building up programs very recently and winning. And I think what we've seen in the past, especially in college basketball, for example, is when guys are moving up the chain, guys that win. and they win consistently. It doesn't matter what program they go to. They could go to Utah State. They could go to, pick a program. But as they move up the tree, they continue winning. Now, a lot of them chase the big dollar, I think, too much, and they end up at a place like Texas or wherever else where the expectations are just way too high, and then they end up having to go back down like Shaka Smart. But when they get back down there, they're winning again. And I think we've got two winners on our hands.
No, I appreciate that answer. My question to you is, and I feel the same way. I'm an Albuquerque native, and I never shut up about it. I don't have my New Jersey counter on here, of all places. My roots are in New Jersey. I worked in Manhattan, and I've always made the joke that Albuquerque and New Mexico is not only like 10 or 20 years behind the rest of the country. It's ass backwards. And I know, and if I'm incorrect, I think you're in and out of Las Vegas a lot. You're back and forth, Las Vegas, Nevada. I don't know. I just wanted to pick your brain. How can Albuquerque embrace like maybe being a part of this decade is my question to you. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just curious maybe what you might have to say, because I do see it on social media.
Well, I mean, if we could go forever with this, we could start real quickly by getting the crime under control in the city. And it seems like the governor is sending the National Guard down now or whatever. That's a good start. Business friendly tax situations, getting rid of gross receipts tax on businesses, particularly medical, would be helpful. Using all that extra oil money, in lowering state income tax. I think all those things would be beneficial to getting people to invest in this community, to putting money here. And obviously, the more companies we have, the more money here, the more we can pay into the 505 fund. And, I think you just getting the community involved. But I think it's a cycle, right? It's a flywheel effect. So if you get things in the community that are winners, whether it's Jackson Wink, whether it's Holly Holm or John Jones or UNM basketball, for example, the city's on fire when the basketball team is doing well. The pit's sold out. There's people coming into town. I think if we can get this program really rocking and rolling, and I was having this conversation the other day with somebody, is like Houston was a mid-major for like 30 years now. Now they're playing the national title game because they got into the right conference. So I think one of the big things that the Lobos have to do is figure out how to maintain sustained success, especially in football, because that's where the money is, and trying to get into a better conference so we can get a better share of the money. We'll be able to pay the coaches more. We'll be able to get the facilities better. And I think as fans, we have to obviously get our butts to the stadium, get our butts in the seats. And I think it's important for fans to also have some perspective too. I think, Rocky and Coach Bliss dealt with this, is they got the program about as good as you could reasonably get it here. If you're going to the second round of the NCAA tournament every single year at this place, you're doing a great job. If you're getting the Lobo football team to 500, you're getting to bowl games. It's unrealistic to think that we're going to be a Sweet 16 team every year, or that we're going to be a BCS contender. If we can at least have an exciting season, which we had both sports this year, right? I can't remember a time where I felt like we could win almost every single game. And we had that, and that's what gets the fans going. And I think it's important that we don't get so spoiled that we start clamoring for the next level and making these coaches hate being here, because I think that's sort of what happened with Dave Bliss and Rocky Long. Having a little perspective, which it's hard to say, right? New Mexicans also have a hard time with perspective, like they were Kentucky or something. I think if we could have a little patience with the coaches too, we might be able to get them stay a little longer than they maybe would have.
This is Bo Hightower. I don't even know. Again, I don't even know how to introduce you to it. Bo Hightower, chiropractor, social media guru. I appreciate that, and I just feel like that Motel 6 right off. And I know they boarded it up in the mayor, and I'm not deep into city politics. I just don't understand. I went to Boise, and there were bars and restaurants across the street from the campus, and what was like a mini NFL stadium. That stadium
it's nice, right?
It's nice, and it's smaller than University Stadium, which blows my mind. I just feel what would change the complexity of a strip of bars and restaurants and shops right along. I don't know what it would do. I know that's wishful thinking and simple, thinking.
Sure.
I just feel like it would make, it would really support not just UNM men's basketball, but the football team.
Yeah. Finding reasons to get people down and around the stadium to where they want to get in there too. That's a great point.
Yeah, no, and we talked to Jeff Symbieta, who's the executive director of the New Mexico Bowl, and we had him on our show in July when we were in Vegas for Mountain West Conference Football Media Days, and he said the same thing. You need to give me a reason to go to the football stadium. We all have a reason to go to the pit, not just
Sure.
because of name alone, but there was a team that was, kicking everybody's ass in that arena. I just think just a little bit of economy, and I don't even know that's the correct word, right there, not a mile and a half away, or not the Buffalo Wild Wings there, not to knock on them. I think local shops and local bars and restaurants would be great. My friends and I had an idea to buy a property and build a bar called Urlacher's and let them sue us. But I don't know. I think that would be a super cool thing.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought I've always had, and I've been to Gainesville, I've been to Norman, even New Brunswick, New Jersey, with Wreckers. It's College Ave.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
bars and bars and bars. Try not to ramble there. Kind of switching gears. I know you're a big UFC guy. I'm not the biggest UFC guy. I watch it. I jokingly call it "quote unquote" brutal shit. But if you kind of mentioned the card, and I wanted to pick your brain because I felt that Dana White had done a very good job marketing and advertising it, what the machine that UFC became. I think the NHL and the MLB could probably use a lesson in that. But I saw a tweet that you kind of had that you're like, man, this product is kind of on the downfall. And I just wanted your thoughts because we are in Albuquerque. There's a lot of UFC fans here.
Yeah, I mean, UFC is definitely on the downfall here. We had a generation of fighters that were all about the same age. They kind of all came up at the same time that were either from here or that moved here to work with Greg. So you had Holly Holm, John Dodson, Carlos Condit, Diego Sanchez, Jody Escobar. I mean, the list goes on and on. Local guys that all got into the UFC. And then we also have folks that moved here, whether it be GSP or Rashad Evans or John Jones. Gyms go through ebbs and flows, and so a lot of those fighters have aged out and they're retiring or they're moving on from the UFC. And there's some new talent coming up. We have Aaron Pico. The Mean Machine is kicking butt right now too. But I think what happened, private equity, in my opinion, it sort of ruins everything. I think we're seeing that with Southwest Airlines coming in. And I think that's sort of what's happening with the UFC. When the UFC was trying to get sold, they were putting on big products. They had incentives to try to sell pay-per-views. They were trying to make their product as big as they possibly could, and that meant paying the fighters well. And when they got the ESPN deal, all their money's guaranteed. So they have no incentive to push a great product out there. And they don't want their fighters to be leveraging them. They don't want the fighters to have leverage over them. And Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and John Jones, some of those guys, they could afford to sit on the sidelines for years at a time and hold the belts. I think the UFC doesn't want any of their fighters to have enough money to be able to sit on the sidelines, that they need them to fight frequently. And they have an obligation to ESPN to fill a card every single week, and so they fill bodies and they do that. And I think with the corporatization of the UFC, when they brought in the Reebok deal and now they've moved it to Venom, I think a lot of the identity of the fighters went away, whether it be Cowboy Cerrone's outfit or Anderson Silva's outfit, things that sort of made the fighters stand out in a way that pro wrestlers used to stand out, right? Like you'd have an outfit that Macho Man would have, or there'd be catchphrases, or you'd see Kurt Angle and he'd have his singlet on, and there were things that made them stand out. If every pro wrestler wore the exact same outfit and they weren't allowed to have a nickname and a brand, what would make them stand out? And I think the UFC, by trying to create a streamlined product, has sort of been detrimental. Now, they got really lucky with the pandemic, everybody being stuck at home. They were able to create a huge new fan base out of that by being the first company back. And then obviously, they ventured into the political arena by having, Donald Trump and all these guys, these conservative influencers in there too. So they've been able to tap into the manosphere in a way that I think other sports have either been hesitant to do so or maybe are afraid to because of their corporate sponsors. But I mean, we're talking about 53% of the country right there. And all those people are now diehard UFC fans. So while I think the product has declined, I'm not so sure the interest has changed all that much. I think the demographic has changed. I think a lot of people my age have stopped buying pay-per-views because they don't see the star power. But I think a lot of the young fans that are coming in new are just familiar with Dana being cool and hanging out with Kid Rock and Trump and all these things and not taking crap from anybody and being the the platform of free speech and stuff like that, and they're into it. So I think what they've proven is you don't necessarily have to have the biggest stars, but we'll see what happens. They have a new TV deal up. We'll see what kind of money they can leverage. They're not owned by the Fertittas anymore. They're owned by Ari Emanuel and their investment group, and so they're owned by TKO, right? So as all these companies do, everything they're doing is in the interest of the shareholder. And The ticket prices are insane now. The cards aren't great, but the profits are probably at all-time highs.
It's almost it almost sounds like it's identical to the NFL, even though I think the NFL has star power. I don't know if this season was like the best football I've ever watched. I've always appreciated college football despite what's happening in the college landscape. And I've over the last 2 or 3 years, I'm more excited for college football on Saturdays than I was on the NFL. Obviously, I still watched, I still gambled, I still ate like I'm going to have a heart attack at the age of 40. But I don't know. I felt like the way you were explaining that, that's how the NFL is. And I had another question for you about fighting this ICS Mania. I was going to reach out to them, and then I don't think I know because Rick Wright wrote about it, but you had Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans getting ready to fight, and they pulled out of the fight. And I'm going to guess it's the $1 million reason, which is money. But were you going to go to that? Did you have any interest in it? Are you a little bummed out that that fight's not happening?
Yeah, I had interest in it. We had there's a lot of local fighters that were going to get some shine there. So both Johnny Tapia's son Nico and Johnny were going to be on the card. Diego Sanchez was on the card. Brian Mendoza was on the card. Diamond Boy Matthew Griego was on the card. There was a bunch of local guys, and Lena from Jackson Wink. They were all on the card. That were looking to, get some star power and get a highlight reel going. And I'm definitely sad that didn't happen. It's hard to put on a promotion. Man. It's hard to get the funding for these things, and it's very volatile. Was I going to go? Nope. I don't. I generally don't go to local fights. Albuquerque's a fight town, and it's even more of a fight town when there's literal fights going on. And all it takes is one drunk person to be like, "Oh, I think I've seen that guy," and start something with you, and now you're in a situation. So I generally don't go to local fights anymore. But yeah, I was looking forward to the card, and I was going to go to the presser and just talk to some of the guys. I don't know how much appetite there is for Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson at their age fighting, but it's still happening. I mean, Evander Holyfield fought Vitor Belfort, and you get all these guys getting the biggest payday of their lives to go get knocked out by Jake Paul. I think it's decision making wise, cage fighters are probably not the best at it. I think that's how they ended up being a cage fighter to begin with, and they're probably mostly not the most savvy with their financial investments. And one way they know they can get a check is getting in a cage and punching somebody in the face. And as long as somebody's willing to write checks for it, I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And I think we've seen that a lot. We saw Chuck Liddell come back and fight Tito Ortiz. I think he was 50-something years old. So I don't know. It depends what the appetite, for this kind of stuff, whether it's these streaming apps, DAZN or things, they're going to fork up money. I think the big thing these days is all the sports gambling websites are sort of funding everything. To make that what I think that's the only reason why the NFL has really prospered over the last 10, 15 years, is the fantasy football and now the gambling, sort of like NCAA with the tournament brackets used to be back in the day. When you have a vested interest in it, you sure pay attention a lot more. And I think the NFL was on the front line of that with fantasy football and gambling. And I think it's really benefited them. I think they were maybe not in the position to be the most dominant sport, when all that stuff took off, and it certainly is now. I think they run everything in America, at least. So with the fighting stuff, I mean, I don't know. There's no other competitors for the UFC anymore. The Bellator, PFL sort of fell apart. There's unfortunately for the UFC now, there's no place to go grab established talent from anymore either. They've sort of grabbed the last of it now with Aaron Picos and those guys. So they're going to have to grow their own talent and make their own stars now. And there's obviously great fighters out there. They're always being born every minute. But, how do you grow them into somebody who grabs the public attention, like a Cowboy Cerrone, like a Conor McGregor, like a Ronda Rousey, like a Brock Lesnar? I don't know. Everybody they've tried to make a star recently, it just really hasn't panned out. So it'll be interesting to see if they can grow stars in the future, or if they even need to. Maybe the UFC is the brand now, and it sort of doesn't matter, and all the pieces are interchangeable. Sort of like offensive linemen or whatever in the NFL. Like, as long as they do their job, it sort of doesn't matter.
Oh, that's a good answer. I appreciate that. It's you mentioned the Netflix. You mentioned the streaming. I was in New Jersey for the St. John's UNM basketball game, and that Friday night was it Saturday? Yeah, it was Friday night. The Tyson Jake Paul fight, and I took my aunt to a Rutgers basketball game because they had the two studs, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. I wanted to see them, and we went back got back to her place and I went to turn on the Tyson Jake Paul fight, and I'll make this story quick. I literally turned it on, got to Netflix, and it was the Mike Tyson ass thing, like right, him in the underwear. That was the first thing like, no joke. It was the first thing I saw. And then the memes, the internet just blew up, and I was like, well, guess I'm a part of streaming history there. Bo, before I let you go, I got to go to one of our guys, and I'll throw Keno out there a little bit more because I've been talking to him and I'd love for him to help us out. But he said, Bo, who you got, Volk or Diego Lopez?
Ooh, that is a tough one, right? So I would usually go with the guy that I see as more accomplished and more skilled, and I think Volkanovski is the more skilled of the two. But as I've aged as a fight fan over the years, I consistently bet on the older fighter when they're kind of past their prime. And your chin doesn't get younger. Once you've been knocked out once or twice, that tends to keep happening. And Volkanovski is probably the best fighter in that division of all time. He has been knocked out twice in a row, I think now, or at least 2 of 3 maybe. And he's getting back in the title shot, and he's fighting a guy that's got heavy hands and that throws. So I think that's the real question. Can his chin hold up against Diego Lopez? And the old me would say Volk. I think Volk is the better wrestler. He's got a more complete striking game. But Diego Lopez is longer, stronger, younger. His chin hasn't really been touched yet, and so I'm probably going to go Diego Lopez. I already bought it Sunday for the $10 off price.
I appreciate you answering his question there. You can follow him on Twitter and I had it up and I messed it up. I don't know. You're on Twitter. What's your YouTube channels, man? I didn't do my due diligence. I'm sorry. Just
Hightower. Yeah.
You know what? Before I let you go, I think I'll ask you, you did that's how I discovered you. And then the Lobo football in the back, the Lobo jersey framed in the back. And I was like, wait a second. I think just for our new listeners, how did you stumble across building kind of a YouTube empire?
Well, I was using athletes to market my practice when I first started on Instagram. When I started partnering with pro athletes, local pro athletes, whether it's Kenny Thomas or Kendall Williams or Scott Bamforth, and obviously our local UFC fighters. And then I started working with Jackson Wink. So we started posting content there, maybe 13, 14 years ago. It was like we would sponsor a fighter for a camp. And, what would you pay to be in the yellow pages, or would you, sponsor and give a guy free treatment for a camp for social media posts? And that would help me grow. And I actually got banned on Instagram in 2016. I think it might have been Crabs. Yeah, it was the Crab Wars. And I needed somewhere to post my stuff, so I just started posting them on YouTube, and they just started going crazy viral. And I haven't stopped since. That was like 2017, I think. And it was the right place, right time. Cairo Tube was blowing up, and then I just happened to have access to all these pro fighters and pro wrestlers and people like that. And so just the combination of the two, we sort of made it into like a little podcast thing where I would interview them while they were getting treatment, sort of like Hot Ones, and been able to have a lot of cool guests on and meet a lot of cool people. So super blessed, super lucky. And like I said, right place, right time, I think.
Bo, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. I really, really can't. It's much, much appreciated. Myself, my business partner, Eric Moulton, we were rinky dink at one point, and I had somebody say, "Hey, you need to stop saying you're rinky dink." And I thought you were the perfect guest after Coach Olen tonight. Not that you were second fiddle. I just thought you would compliment it very, very well. Don't take, dude, I've got a terrible sense of humor, but I really mean that. So I appreciate you. Go right ahead.
Coach Olen is the king of New Mexico right now. Hopefully he hangs on to the crown.
I hope he runs. I sound like a young me. I hope he runs with this thing and does it. But I really mean it, man. Thank you so much for spending 30 minutes with us tonight.
Thanks for having me on, man. Good to talk as always.
I'll bug you maybe in about a year or so. But thank you very much. Back. Have a good one. Sounds good. Have a good one. Bo Hightower, everybody, and you can check him out on his YouTube channel and his Twitter, which he said was just his name. I'm going to take a quick comment. I'm going to take a quick break. Come back and read your comments. I'm so fantastic at hosting the show. Appreciate all the engagement tonight. I want to thank Coach Eric Olen and Bo Hightower. Love. That's the second time I've talked to Bo. He's awesome. So my name's Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. We'll be right back.
The mania has started, and you'll find slam dunk savings and selection during our Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. We're celebrating our 60th anniversary all year long, and that means buzzer-beating incentives and special dealer offers, like a new 24 Ford Bronco Big Bend Sasquatch, lease for $499 a month. Or a new Ford F-150, now $1,500 or 2.9% APR during this Hoop Mania event at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
Our planet is our shared home, where we can all celebrate in its beauty, and we can all do more about making our home a better place together at the Earth Day Festival. Join us on April 13th at Balloon Fiesta Park. Family fun activities and energy experts on what you can do to take action now. Get your reserved tickets at earthdayfestivalnm.org. Our power, our planet. It's all at the Earth Day Festival.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. I'm going to go to the comments because there's a few I got to figure out. And then I want to bring one back up. Mark Cisneros. Can't even see my face. Mark, I hope you're doing well tonight. Absolutely, Ryan. Ryan Smith is doing that in Utah. His net worth is $2.2 billion, and he's a 45-year-old BYU alumni. Him and his wife believe in building sports arenas and bars, restaurants, shops all around it. They pour millions of dollars a year into Utah sports. We could put restaurant shop bars near the pit or University Stadium. We used to be on par with Utah, BYU, TCU, and Houston. We just haven't made our state business friendly and safe for families to enjoy. Yeah, I don't understand. I throw out Gainesville, Norman, Oklahoma. I haven't mentioned Rutgers, College Ave. Have you ever been to New Brunswick, New Jersey? I know I'm repeating myself there. It's all bars and some famous ones. A famous restaurant called Stuff Your Face, and then the New Brunswick train track station is right there. Take you further south or into New York City. A lot happening. Things are on top of you at East. I just would wonder what a couple of bars, restaurants, a couple of shops where that Motel 6 is, and why you cannot just demolish that, and whoever owns it turn a profit. It's people are smarter than I have no idea. I am not business savvy at all. Somebody asked, where's Eric? Eric is behind the scenes. Eric is my business partner in this. I was sick in February, and he's had some sick kiddos, and I think he and his wife also got sick, but I think he's more the brains of this operation than I am. So no, he's not going anywhere, and he's, I think, a pretty good business partner. I'm sure I drive him nuts every now and then, but anyway. Gilbert Chavez, they need to build a nice hotel next to the stadium for alumni, develop the land, and add restaurants and retail. There's a lot of employment with the labs. Kirtland Air Force Base, the hospitals, UNM and area, right? UNM, yeah, I think I knew that. And Eric just texted me. UNM actually bought the Motel 6. Thank God. See, I'm keeping up on my current events. Ben, one of my favorite memories, the Robert Turner Bo Hightower fight. Got to go back to this guy, Bro Ramblin'. Like I said, Pro Rambler. Luis Torres. All right. If you're still watching, why I remind you of Wayne Knight, because I don't think I'm as heavy. But everybody loves Wayne Knight. Everybody loves Newman, don't they? See what else we got. If you have still any thoughts on Coach Olen, shoot them over my way. Mud, how you doing, Coach? You have to eat at Bob's Burger on Central and the Trisco Original. I like Bob's Burgers. I don't have it as much. I am a connoisseur of Bob's Burger. Eric Markham, doing good. What's up, fellas? Ryan, you were looking good. What's up, Ed the Pro? Nick, appreciate that. Yeah, I don't have a hat on. I got a haircut. I don't have a Jufro. clean shaven. We're all on our best behavior tonight per Coach Olen. Can't wait for the interview. John, I hope you're doing well. And I saw that earlier and I cracked up. Yeah, again, Spence's Pro, where Rick and Eric, I will address Rick at some point. And I'm very devastated by it. We had a core group to build around, is why people are freaking out. We started from ground zero. I mean, it happens. I think Houston is going to have to build up from ground zero, although Kelvin Sampson's done a hell of a job in a decade. So kudos to him. Keelan, Hindi, Hubbard, Nunez men at it again with their super solid insight. Mad props and love to both of you, Lobos. Matthew, I didn't get to you. Coach, question for Coach O. Does he have any issue playing a true freshman? I'm sure there are plenty of people hyped for Hall. Yeah, I think that's it. That's my guy, Raymond Funes. I hope I pronounced that right. G Wade cleanup for Coach O. I don't care. Yeah, if you had heard that, I don't really want to harp on it, but yeah, allegedly, Zack Arnett drove through a Wendy's naked in Vegas, which I hope is not the real story, but again,
The
allegedly.
Miguel Sanchez.
AJ, okay, that makes plenty of sense. Out repeating that stuff. Weird story today is Malone getting fired for. Yeah, we covered that. G Wade, all love, you're doing good work for the press. G Wade, I'm gonna tell you this story, even though it was well over a year ago. My background, if you're still watching, my background is journalism, and made one blunder with this company and misreported something, and you know what it was. And when you're a journalist, it's confirm. I ran with stuff that I learned from sources, and now I confirm with UNM because I have a better relationship with them, and they've been fantastic. So that's not how I wanted to see it. And to end on this note, that bugged me, and I lost sleep for about a week because I think we were the new kids on the block. Not that I am, and bugged me. And I've let it go after a year and a half, but I was very upset with that. I'm not going to even attempt to know how to say that. How do we feel about Skolin coach Scobos? I think people do like that. Gilbert Chavez, I know a realtor coach. Hey, Gilbert Chavez, you're watching the show and maybe we could work together. Just a heads up. I'll just throw that out to Eric Moulton. He's the man behind it. Gabriel Salas, welcome, coach. Any word on True Arcade? I was not going to ask him that. I think True and who I've talked to, I think there's a little bit of hiccup. What I'm going to say is I think there's a little bit of hiccup with True right now getting out of here, and I don't think it's going to be Xavier. So just throwing that out there. Everybody with dinner tips for Coach Olen. I think that was pretty great. I want to thank Steve Kirkland again. I want to thank Coach Eric Olen, your new UNM men's basketball coach, or what was the nickname I gave him earlier? Borderline bogey golfer, Eric Olen. Appreciate him. He seems like he got a good sense of humor. I think wasn't trying to call him out on it. I think there were some nerves on his introduction press conference, but obviously he's a pro. He handled it like a champ. I think he's probably also more settled in now. Thanks to Bo Hightower. I don't know, chiropractor, social media guru, and all of you for watching tonight. We wouldn't be where we are without you. And this thing has gotten much bigger, and maybe it's not given me arrogance, but it's humbled me. I know people might not disagree or might not always agree with my opinions of UNM athletics. But I've seen some shit. But I'm still a UNM alumni, and when they win, it's good for business here and everybody's happy. And as I've mentioned before, and I will be a broken record up until probably Labor Day weekend. What Fernando Lovo has done, and not that they're my best friends, again, acquaintances in that department, professional, Ryan Berryman, who is now added to my trifecta of Ryans that are better than me, which is Ryan Gosling, Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Berryman. I put that name to shame. The youthful movement over there is fantastic. I think what Fernando Lovo has done, and I think there's maybe a presence of maybe putting these coaches out there. I think I repeat myself every show. I'm what is being going on over there is quite a pleasant surprise to me, and I think it's very good for the university. And on a side note, not to ramble, Albuquerque is not such a small town anymore. This is not like it's a pretty decent size area. And I had this thought yesterday as I was in the middle, on under the big eye and the bypass is why not? I mean, and Kurt says it, Kurt Ross says it all the time. Why not? I feel like it's such a big enough area and there's such enough population here. I don't understand why 40,000 people can't go to a football game. I think I don't get it. And not here to knock on United. I've never understood it. Look at the Isotopes. What an attendance they have. And the Rockies organization seems to not give a flying expletive about putting a good product on the field. The Rockies are like the worst team in MLB right now. But I just don't understand why not UNM having solidified a prominent program in football and basketball. So there's that. Yeah, this thing wouldn't be as big rambling and forgetting my train of thought, and I'm getting tired. I want to thank everybody that listens, though. And again, we would not be where we are without you. I'm saying that again. I really appreciate the support. It's been astronomical. Eric Moulton, my business partner, Ed Nick Nunez, Jacob Neff, much appreciated to all their efforts and support in this. And there's more to come with the coverage we can give of UNM athletics. So yeah, appreciate it. The Pit Press Plus, check it out. It's going to be exclusive content. And let me do this. I have to bring it up before I let you guys go. And I'm sorry, once again, fantastic job of hosting the show. But I just want people to see it. And the dead air. And the 2006 UNM football team photo. We'll just show it again since we had Bo Hightower on. Ben, if you're watching, there you are. The Pit Press Plus, subscribe, only $2 a month. Check out our website, thepitpressnm.com. We also have a yearly subscription on there. I think it's $25. Still going to have free content. Breaking news, anything hard news will definitely be on there. Just a little bit more insight. Nick's writing more. We'll take editorials. Shoot us an email if you want something written. I'll treat it like an editorial and I'll put it on our site. The pitpressnm@gmail.com, I believe. I want to make sure I have that right. Go ahead and email that. We brought a phone line onto the show and nobody called. I think I need to probably do that, but yeah, shoot us. The pitpressnm@gmail.com. If you want to write something and I could edit it and I think it's worthy of posting, I'll throw it on the editorial. Be great to get some fan support. Maybe like a fan forum. I don't think you necessarily treat it like that. And that's another topic for another time, but wanted to throw that out there again. The Pit Press Plus exclusive content, more in-depth stuff, more in-depth work, X's and O's, Nick and Eric, all those guys played basketball. I didn't. I just lose money on college basketball. Anyway, appreciate everybody watching tonight. I'm getting tired. Can't thank everybody enough. Thursday night, we'll be back roughly 8 o'clock, maybe 7:30. Mark Ziegler from the San Diego Union Tribune has just confirmed with us tonight. So that looks like it's a go. I'm sure he will be quite the guest for Lobo fans here. I'll talk to any, I respect the reporters. So that would be great. Plus, he was in Denver, I believe, for the UCSD Michigan game. So he was there for the tournament. Justin Michael, I believe, from DNVR will join us. And usual suspect, Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. That's Thursday night. Same Lobo time, same Lobo place. Appreciate everybody watching us. Want to thank Capital Ford, Neil Wenderoth at Affordable Solar, Tim Baca Jr., Tim Baca Sr., Molly and Armando over at Turquoise Desert Tap Room. I hope everybody has a good rest of your Tuesday night. Have a good Wednesday. And as I always say, don't do anything that I would do. For Eric Moulton, Nick Nunez, Ed Nunez, Jacob Neff, and Eric Moulton, my name is Ryan Tamori. Have a good night.